Commander Han stood tall near the observation window of Orbital Platform 7, watching as the Valkyrie ship docked with practiced precision. His uniform was perfectly pressed, his posture rigid from years of military service before his transfer to diplomatic corps. Though his face remained calm, his heart raced. First contact had happened months ago, but this meeting would establish formal relations between Earth and the first confirmed intelligent alien species humanity had ever encountered. "They're early," remarked Senior Ambassador Kim, checking her tablet. "That's either a good sign or they're just as nervous as we are." Han nodded. "Let's hope it's both." The station's docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 Valkyrie delegates entered, moving with a fluid grace that made them appear to be gliding rather than walking. Their blue-tinged skin caught the light, creating subtle patterns that shifted as they moved. Each had 6 eyes arranged in pairs across their elongated faces. Han stepped forward as practiced. "On behalf of Earth, I welcome the representatives of Valkyrie. I am Commander Han, military liaison to the diplomatic team." The tallest Valkyrie inclined her head. Unlike the others in formal attire, she wore what appeared to be a practical uniform, with various instruments attached to a belt. "I am Neri, xenobiological specialist and cultural observer," she replied, her translator conveying her words with only a slight delay. "These are our diplomatic representatives." As the formal introductions continued, Han noticed Neri studying him intently. Her eyes, all 6 of them, moved methodically across his features, his stance, his hands. It wasn't threatening, merely analytical. The meeting proceeded to the main conference room. While the senior diplomats discussed trade possibilities and non-interference agreements, Han found himself seated across from Nari during the break. "You maintain perfect posture even when relaxed," she observed, removing a translucent tablet from her side pouch. "Is this common among all humans or specific to your function?" "Military training," Han explained, surprised by her directness. "Hard to break the habit." Neri tapped something into her device. "Fascinating. Your species encodes behavioral patterns through repetition that persist beyond their functional necessity." Han couldn't help but smile. "I suppose we do. You find this amusing." Nari's skin pulsed slightly, a ripple of bioluminescent blue traveling across her face. "I find it interesting to see ourselves through new eyes." 6 new eyes, in fact. Nari's skin flickered again, which Han would later learn indicated curiosity. "You make reference to my physiological differences as a point of connection. This suggests comfort with acknowledging differences." Their conversation continued as Neri asked increasingly personal questions about human social structures. Han found himself explaining concepts of family, friendship, and romantic partnerships. "Your species forms unusual attachments," she noted, analyzing data on her tablet. "You bond permanently despite knowing death will separate you." Han smiled. Perhaps that's what makes the bond meaningful. Nari's skin pulsed rapidly. "Meaning derived from inevitable loss. This contradicts efficiency principles." "Not everything humans do is about efficiency. What other organizing principles guide human behavior?" Nari leaned forward, genuinely curious. Before Han could answer, the station alarm blared. The lights flickered, and suddenly everything not secured began floating. "Gravity system failure," Han said, pushing off the table to stabilize himself. "Happens sometimes on older platforms." Nari remained perfectly still, apparently unbothered by the sudden zero gravity. "Your species seems poorly adapted to space habitation." "We manage," Han replied, tapping his communication device. "Control, this is Commander Han. Status report." The response came through broken and static-filled. "System malfunction. Compartment sealed. Working on backup." Han looked at Nari. "The station's automatic safety protocols have sealed different sections. The diplomats are probably trapped in the conference room." "This disrupts the meeting schedule," Nari observed. "It disrupts more than that. If the gravity systems are failing, Other critical systems might follow. Han pushed himself toward the door, but it remained sealed. He examined the control panel. We're locked in until they restore systems or override the safety protocols. Nari floated to his side. Your concern extends beyond schedule disruption. You perceive danger. Old stations like this one have interconnected systems. A failure in one can cascade. Nari studied the panel. The design appears inefficient. Welcome to human engineering, Han said with a half smile. We solve one problem, create three more. Nari's skin pulsed with what might have been amusement. The Valkyrie have a similar saying. She removed a small device from her belt. This might help access your system. That would violate about 12 security protocols, Han said. Would you prefer to remain trapped while your station deteriorates? Nari asked simply. Han considered this for only a moment. Do it. Nari connected her device to the panel. Strange symbols flashed across the screen. Your computer architecture is simple but surprisingly robust. It appears the primary gravity generator has overheated, forcing shutdown. Backup systems were attempting to compensate, but are now failing sequentially. Can you restore communications? Han asked. Better. Nari's fingers moved quickly across her device. I can access the station's maintenance systems directly. Working together, Han guiding with his knowledge of station systems, and Nari applying her advanced technical skills, they managed to reroute power and gradually restore the primary systems. When the gravity slowly returned, Han found himself impressed by how efficiently they had collaborated despite their differences. You understand technology beyond your apparent specialization, Han noted. All Valkyrie receive comprehensive education in multiple disciplines, Nari replied. Specialization comes later. When the doors finally opened, they found worried diplomats in the hallway. Ambassador Kim looked relieved to see Han. The station engineer said someone manually bypassed systems to restore functionality, she said. Was that you? Han glanced at Nari. It was a joint effort. The Valkyrie have some impressive technical knowledge. Collaborative problem-solving between species, Nari added, her skin pulsing with what Han was beginning to recognize as satisfaction. Most educational. As the diplomats resumed their meetings, Han noticed something had changed. The Valkyrie representatives seemed more relaxed, more open to discussion. The minor crisis had accomplished what hours of formal dialogue couldn't. It had shown that humans and Valkyrie could work together effectively. Later, as the Valkyrie prepared to return to their ship, Nari approached Han again. This interaction was unexpectedly productive, she said. I request permission to continue our cultural exchange discussions during your diplomatic mission. I'd like that, Han replied. As Nari turned to leave, her skin rippled with a pattern Han hadn't seen before. It would be many months before he understood that it was the Valkyrie expression of unexpected pleasure, the first sign of a connection that would eventually bridge two worlds. Nari stood in the observation lounge of Orbital Platform 7, watching a human family reunite. A young woman ran into the arms of an older couple, all three crying and laughing at once. Their emotional display drew little attention from other humans, but Nari found it fascinating. She recorded subtle changes in their body chemistry with her sensory implant, oxytocin levels rising, stress hormones declining, pupil dilation indicating emotional intensity. They haven't seen each other in only 3 Earth months, she noted quietly. Yet they react as if reuniting after a lifetime apart, replied Elder Taro, her senior colleague. The older Valkyrie's skin displayed patterns of mild disapproval. Humans waste considerable energy on these displays. Nari's own skin flickered with interest patterns. Is it waste if it serves a purpose we don't yet understand? Taro made a dismissive gesture. Your assignment is observation, not justification of their inefficiencies. When Taro departed, Nari continued watching human interactions throughout the station. She documented greetings between friends, handshakes, hugs, backslaps, and the subtle differences between professional and personal relationships. Later that day, She met Commander Han in what humans call the Garden Module, a room filled with earth plants. These meetings had become regular since their cooperation during the gravity system failure 2 months earlier. Do these plants remind you of your home? Nari asked, scanning a flowering shrub. Han touched a leaf gently. Some do, though Earth has far more varieties than we could ever fit here. You miss your planet, Nari observed. It wasn't a question. Sometimes, don't you miss yours? Nari considered this. Valkyrie adapt quickly to new environments. Attachment to specific locations is not evolutionarily advantageous for a nomadic species. Yet you maintain a homeworld, Han pointed out. A central hub for coordination and reproduction. Not an emotional anchor. Nari's skin rippled with patterns indicating mild amusement. Your species forms attachments to everything. People, places, objects, ideas. Han smiled. Is that so strange? It is inefficient, Nari replied. When my assignment here ends, I will move to my next post without distress. My connections here will be recorded but not maintained. Even our friendship, Han asked. Nari's skin flickered with an uncertain pattern. We have a productive professional relationship. On Earth, we call it friendship too. Their conversation shifted to Nari's latest cultural observations. She brought out her tablet, displaying scenes she had recorded. Your literature celebrates reunions after decades apart, she told Han. I've been studying human narratives. Many involve separations and reunions. People waiting for loved ones to return from wars, journeys, or disasters. Those stories resonate because they reflect something we value, Han explained. My people would have simply found new companions, Nari replied. If a Valkyrie leaves, others fill their role. We don't wait. Han considered this. Humans treasure consistency. We build on shared history. Inefficient, she replied, though her skin pattern suggested curiosity rather than dismissal. Maybe from one perspective, Han acknowledged. But think of it like compound interest. Each shared experience adds to the relationship's value. The longer the history, the more valuable the bond. Nari's skin displayed ripples of consideration. You apply economic principles to emotional connections. Just trying to explain it in terms that might make sense to you. Han smiled. Though I suspect Valkyrie understand attachment better than you admit. How so? You keep family groups, don't you? Maintain genetic relationships. For practical purposes only, Nari insisted, though her skin pattern showed slight defensiveness. Resource sharing among genetically related individuals improves survival rates. Same difference, Han said with a shrug. We just acknowledged the emotional component. Over the following weeks, Nari expanded her research on human bonding behaviors. She observed couples holding hands in corridors, friends sharing meals, coworkers developing inside jokes. Each observation was meticulously documented and analyzed. During her 6th cultural exchange meeting with Han, they moved beyond theoretical discussions. Han shared stories from his childhood, fishing trips with his father, his mother's cooking, school friendships that had lasted decades. You've maintained contact with people you met as a juvenile? Nari asked, genuinely surprised. My oldest friend and I met when we were 6 years old, Han confirmed. We still talk every week, even with me stationed here. What purpose does this serve after your initial life development phases are complete? Han thought about this. It's not about purpose exactly. My history is part of who I am. The people who shared it understand me in ways others can't. Nari made notes on her tablet. Humans define themselves through their connections to others. Don't Valkyrie have any lasting relationships? Han asked. Some working partnerships persist for practical reasons, Nari admitted, but we consider emotional attachment a potential liability. Evolution has not favored such traits in our species. Yet you're clearly capable of forming connections, Han observed. Your society has families, collaborative research teams, creative partnerships. Functional groupings only, Nari insisted, though her skin displayed patterns of uncertainty. After their meeting, Neri returned to the Valkyrie section of the station. Elder Taro and Science Director Minna waited for her in the communal area. "Your extended contact with the human continues," Elder Taro noted, his skin showing patterns of concern. "It provides valuable research data," Neri replied. "The Council has expressed concern about potential emotional contamination." Director Minna added, "Human attachment behaviors could influence your objectivity. I assure you my research remains uncompromised," Neri said firmly. "Your biochemical readings suggest otherwise," Elder Taro countered. "Our sensors detect altered patterns when you interact with the human-designated Han." Neri's skin flickered with surprise before she controlled the reaction. Physiological responses to novel social interactions are expected. They don't indicate contamination. "Be vigilant," Director Minna warned. "Humans spread their emotional patterns like viruses. Their need for connection can override rational thought." After the elders departed, Neri reviewed her personal data logs. She couldn't deny the evidence. Her biochemical readings did indeed change in Han's presence. Her cortical activity increased, her hormone levels shifted, and her skin's bioluminescent patterns became more vibrant. She sat alone in her quarters, contemplating these findings. The Valkyrie prided themselves on emotional regulation and attachment avoidance. Their nomadic ancestors had survived by forming temporary groups and moving on without hesitation when resources depleted. Yet something about human connections intrigued her. Their inefficient loyalty, their celebration of shared pasts, their willing vulnerability, all contradicted Valkyrie evolutionary logic. Neri closed her eyes, recalling Han's face when he spoke of his childhood friend. The warmth in his expression reflected something her species considered unnecessary yet somehow seemed valuable. A cultural curiosity only, she told herself, though her skin patterns revealed uncertainty even to her own eyes. Nothing more. But as she prepared for sleep, Neri found herself looking forward to their next meeting with an anticipation that went beyond scientific interest. A realization that troubled and excited her in equal measure. The meeting between human and Valkyrie delegates had been going well. 6 months of cultural exchange had led to discussions about a formal alliance treaty. Commander Han stood by the viewport, watching Neri explain Valkyrie navigation technology to a group of human engineers. Her hands moved gracefully as she spoke, her skin pulsing with patterns of enthusiasm. Han smiled. Over these months, Neri had shown increasing comfort with humans. She still maintained scientific objectivity, but her formal demeanor had softened. She now used human expressions, occasionally, even attempting jokes. The station vibrated slightly. Han frowned. Minor tremors weren't unusual in an aging space platform, but something felt wrong. He touched his communication device. "Control, this is Commander Han. Status report on that vibration." Static answered him. The lights flickered. Then the world exploded. A massive blast tore through the north quadrant of the station. The observation deck where Han stood lurched sideways. Alarms blared as emergency containment systems activated. People screamed as they were thrown against walls and railings. "Emergency protocols engaged," announced the station's eye. "Structural damage detected in sectors 7 through 12. All personnel evacuate immediately." Han pulled himself up, ears ringing. Through the smoke, he saw people rushing toward emergency exits. Some were injured, bleeding from cuts caused by flying debris. Han. He turned to see Neri moving toward him against the flow of evacuees. Her blue skin had darkened with stress, but she appeared uninjured. "The primary core stabilizer is failing," she said without preamble. "Your engineers are evacuating. I've accessed the station's diagnostic systems." Han's communication device crackled. "Commander, this is Control. Explosion origin unknown. Station integrity at 43% and falling. All personnel must evacuate immediately." "Understood," Han replied. "Status on diplomats." "Most are already in escape pods. Ambassador Kim is coordinating. Han nodded. Neri, you should join your delegation. I can assist with emergency response, she countered. My sensory capabilities exceed human parameters in smoke and reduced lighting. Another explosion rocked the station, smaller than the first but still violent. Emergency lights switched to red. Containment failure in Sector 9, the AI announced. Oxygen levels dropping. Evacuation mandatory for all personnel. Han made a quick decision. Help me get everyone to the escape pods first. They worked efficiently together, Han directing human evacuees while Neri used her superior vision to locate those trapped or disoriented by smoke. As they moved through the damaged corridors, the station groaned ominously around them. Hull breach in Sector 10, the AI warned. Emergency bulkheads engage. They reached the main evacuation point where Ambassador Kim was organizing the final groups into escape pods. Commander, we've been waiting for you, she called. This is the last pod. Any other personnel unaccounted for? Han asked. All accounted for, Kim confirmed. The Valkyrie delegation left 10 minutes ago. Neri's skin flickered with embarrassment. I remain to assist. Han checked the station schematics on a nearby terminal. Something's wrong. The core stabilizer is showing critical readings. If it fails completely, the station will break apart. Neri finished. Or worse, Han added. The power core could detonate. We're too close to the colony on orbital platform 8. Ambassador Kim looked alarmed. Can we remote activate emergency shutdown? Systems are too damaged, Han replied, studying the readouts. It needs manual override. A final warning blared through the station. Critical failure imminent. Final evacuation order issued. Repeat, all personnel must evacuate immediately. Han made his decision. Get in the pod, Ambassador. Take Nari with you. What about you? Kim asked. Someone needs to manually stabilize the core until emergency ships can secure it. Han replied. I have the training. That's suicide, Kim protested. It's necessary, Han countered. Millions of people on Platform 8 could die otherwise. Neri studied Han's face, her 6 eyes unblinking. I should stay. My species has greater radiation tolerance. No, Han said firmly. Get to safety. Another violent shudder ran through the station. 30 seconds to containment failure, announced the AI. Go, Han urged them. Now. Ambassador Kim reluctantly entered the escape pod. Neri hesitated, then followed. Han sealed the door and activated the launch sequence. Through the small window, he saw Neri watching him, her skin displaying patterns he couldn't interpret. The pod detached. Han turned and ran toward the core section, navigating through increasingly damaged corridors. The station's vibrations intensified with each passing minute. When he reached the core control room, he found it partially destroyed. Exposed wiring sparked from damaged panels. The main display showed critical readings across all systems. Computer, begin manual override sequence, Han commanded, settling into the operator's chair. Warning. Core temperature exceeding safety parameters, the AI responded. Manual override requires 2-point authentication. Han cursed. The system needed a second operator. A safety protocol he'd forgotten. Override safety protocol. Emergency authorization, Han 7 Delta 9. He tried. Authorization insufficient, the computer replied. Second authentication required. The door to the control room slid open. Han turned in shock to see Neri standing there. The escape pod launched, he said, confused. I left it, Neri replied simply, moving to the second control station. Her fingers flew across the interface. Authentication provided. Valkyrie Science designation Neri 12 primary. Authentication accepted, the computer responded. Manual override enabled. Together they worked frantically to stabilize the core, rerouting power, venting excess heat, and reinforcing magnetic containment fields. The station continued to shake around them, sections decompressing in the distance. "Why did you come back?" Han asked as he sealed a coolant leak. "Your escape pod was clear." "I don't know," Nari answered truthfully. "I just did." After 20 minutes of intensive work, the core readings finally began to stabilize. Han exhaled in relief. "We did it," he said. "Emergency response teams should arrive within the hour." A violent impact suddenly rocked the station. Metal groaned and tore somewhere nearby. "Debris collision detected," announced the AI. "New hull breach in Sector 4. Emergency bulkheads engaged." The door to the control room slammed shut and locked automatically. Warning lights flashed around them. "Sector 4 isolated," the AI continued. "Oxygen depletion detected. Estimated breathable air, 97 minutes. Han checked the communication system. All channels are down. We can't contact the emergency teams." Nari's skin darkened with concern. "The bulkheads won't release until external override is applied." They were trapped. Han assessed their situation. "We have limited oxygen and no way to signal our location. The emergency teams will conduct standard search patterns," Nari said. "But with the station this damage..." She didn't need to finish. "Standard search protocols might not prioritize the core section, assumed to be evacuated after the stabilization readings improved." Han found a repair kit and began sealing small air leaks to preserve their oxygen. Nari assisted, her nimble fingers more precise than his in the delicate work. "Valkyrie teachings emphasize survival above all else," Nari said suddenly. Returning was irrational. Han glanced at her. "Humans have a similar instinct for self-preservation. We just sometimes choose to override it." "For what purpose?" "Various reasons," Han replied, applying sealant to another crack. "Protecting others. Fulfilling duty. Sometimes." He hesitated. "For people we care about." Nari's skin displayed complex patterns of confusion and realization. "My biochemical readings are still altered around you. The elders warned me about emotional contamination from humans." Han smiled despite their dire situation. "Is that what they call friendship?" "Valkyrie do not form attachments," Nari insisted, though her skin patterns suggested uncertainty. "Yet you came back," Han pointed out gently. They worked in silence for a while, conserving oxygen. The station creaked and groaned around them, damaged systems failing one by one. "If we don't survive," Nari said finally, "I want to acknowledge that our interactions have been significant to me." Han looked at her with surprise. "That sounds suspiciously like attachment." "Perhaps," Nari admitted, her skin displaying patterns Han had never seen before. "Perhaps some inefficiencies have merit after all." The oxygen level indicator continued its steady decline as they waited, hoping for rescue, together in the silence of the damaged station. The rescue team found them 18 hours after the explosion. Han was unconscious, having given Nari the last of their oxygen. She had been monitoring his vital signs, her own biology more efficient at processing limited air. When the emergency crew cut through the sealed door, Nari's skin flashed with relief patterns so intense that even the human medics recognized her emotion. 3 weeks later, Orbital Platform 7 was partially repaired. An investigation revealed that the explosion had been caused by a power coupling failure. Nothing intentional, just aging equipment. The diplomatic talks resumed in temporary facilities, with both humans and Valkyrie showing newfound respect for each other. Han had recovered quickly under medical care. The doctors told him he was lucky. Another hour without oxygen would have caused permanent brain damage. When he asked about Nari, they explained she had visited him daily during his recovery, but had been called to meetings once he regained consciousness. He finally saw her again at the resumed diplomatic sessions. Though surrounded by her fellow Valkyrie, she noticed him immediately. Her skin flickered briefly with recognition patterns before returning to the neutral state expected in formal settings. After the meeting, Han approached her in the corridor. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "The medics told me you kept me alive until rescue arrived." You had done the same for me, Neri replied simply. Reciprocity is logical. Han smiled. Is that all it was? Neri's skin displayed brief patterns of discomfort before she controlled them. The Valkyrie High Council has reviewed the incident. They found our actions efficient under crisis conditions. High praise, Han said with gentle sarcasm. Indeed, Neri replied, missing his tone. However, they have also expressed concern about our continued interaction. Han's smile faded. What does that mean? Nothing immediate, Neri assured him. But I have been informed that once diplomatic frameworks are established, I will be recalled to the homeworld. For how long? Indefinitely, Neri said. New specialists will replace me here. Han absorbed this information silently. Over the past months, especially since the crisis, something had changed between them. Neither had named it, but both felt it. When? He finally asked. The treaty signing is scheduled for next month, Neri replied. I will depart immediately after. For the next 4 weeks, they continued their cultural exchange meetings, now with a new urgency. Han taught Neri about human music, sharing recordings of Earth's great composers. Neri explained Valkyrie art forms, patterns of light and sound that humans could only partially perceive. They rarely spoke about her impending departure. When Han suggested requesting special permission for continued research collaboration, Neri's skin displayed patterns of resignation. The Council has been explicit, she explained. They believe extended contact with humans is changing me. Is it? Han asked. Neri hesitated. My biochemical patterns have indeed altered. I experience reactions that have no precedent in Valkyrie biology. Like what? Anticipation before our meetings, memory patterns that activate unpredictably, physiological responses when certain topics arise. Her skin rippled with embarrassment. It is most inefficient. Han smiled. Humans call those feelings. The Council calls it contamination, Neri countered. They fear it could spread if I remain. The treaty signing ceremony was elaborate, with representatives from both species gathered in the newly rebuilt main hall. After years of careful diplomacy, humans and Valkyrie had established formal relations, trade agreements, scientific exchange protocols, and non-aggression pacts. Han watched from the side as Neri participated in the Valkyrie ritual confirmations. Her formal attire highlighted the elegant patterns flowing across her blue skin. She had explained that these ceremonial garments were designed to enhance their natural bioluminescence, displaying their most sophisticated communication patterns. After the ceremony, Neri was surrounded by Valkyrie officials. Han glimpsed Elder Taro speaking intensely to her, his skin displaying patterns of strict instruction. Neri's own patterns showed compliance, though Han had learned to recognize subtle resistance in the secondary ripples. That evening, as the Valkyrie delegation prepared to board their ship, Han received a message asking him to come to the observation deck. He found Neri there alone, watching the stars. Your ship leaves soon, Han said, joining her at the viewport. In 37 minutes, Neri confirmed without looking at him. Elder Taro has already boarded with the others. I requested time for final observations. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the distant lights of passing vessels. I have studied human relationships extensively, Neri said finally. Your literature, your social patterns, your biological responses. I understand the theoretical framework. Just the theoretical? Han asked. Neri turned to face him fully, all 6 eyes focused on his face. Will you leave me, human? She asked, her voice pattern indicating she expected confirmation of their inevitable separation. Han studied her, understanding the cultural context of her question. Valkyrie never expected permanence. Their nomadic heritage taught them that all connections were temporary, all separations final. When Valkyrie parted ways, they did not look back. No, he answered simply. Distance means little. Time means less. I'll find you. Her bioluminescence flared in surprise, cycling through patterns he'd never seen, waves of light that seemed almost like Earth's aurora borealis, beautiful and chaotic. "Impossible," she whispered. "The Council forbids human visitors to the homeworld." "Then I'll wait at the border until that changes," Han replied. Nari's skin displayed patterns of confusion mixed with something like hope. "That could take years." "Then it takes years." "You would waste your time on such an unlikely outcome?" Nari asked, genuinely puzzled. "The probability of Council policy changing is minimal." Han smiled. "Humans are remarkably good at beating the odds." "This is the inefficiency my elders warned about," Nari said, though her skin showed no disapproval. "Making promises that defy logical outcomes." "Maybe," Han acknowledged. "Or maybe some things are worth being inefficient for." A soft chime sounded, the final boarding call for the Valkyrie ship. "I must go," Nari said. "The Council is monitoring my compliance." Han nodded. "I understand." Nari hesitated, then slowly extended her hand in the human gesture she had observed but never used. Han took it gently. Her skin was cooler than a human's, smoother, and rippled with light under his touch. "I will send research updates when permitted," she said formally. "I'll look forward to them," Han replied. She turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "Han, yes. The Council fears human emotional contamination because they recognize its power," she said quietly. "What they don't understand is that some contaminations are beneficial." With that, she was gone, leaving Han alone with the stars and a promise that defied both distance and Valkyrie tradition. 3 years had passed since Nari returned to the Valkyrie homeworld. 3 Earth years, or 1 complete Valkyrie cycle, as their planet's orbit around its sun took longer than Earth's. For Nari, every day of those 3 years had been filled with purpose and challenge. From her office in the High Council Tower, Nari could see the sprawling capital city with its luminescent architecture. Buildings that seemed to flow rather than stand, their surfaces pulsing with light patterns that communicated information to all who passed. It was beautiful, efficient, and increasingly open to change thanks to her efforts. Her door chimed softly. Elder Taro entered, his skin displaying formal greeting patterns. "The Council has reviewed your latest proposal," he said without preamble. "The human exchange program has been approved." Nari controlled her skin's reaction, allowing only appropriate satisfaction patterns to show. "Thank you, Elder. This will greatly enhance our understanding of human culture." "Your persistence is noted," Taro said, his own skin showing patterns of reluctant admiration. 3 years ago, you returned as a scientist potentially contaminated by human influence. Now you lead our diplomatic restructuring." "Evidence supports adaptation," Nari replied simply. "Our traditional isolation no longer serves our interests." When Taro left, Nari allowed her skin to display her true feelings. Bright, complex patterns that no traditional Valkyrie would recognize. She had changed, yes, but she had also changed her world. After returning home, Nari had submitted hundreds of research papers on human-Valkyrie interaction potential. At first, the Council had barely acknowledged them. But slowly, methodically, she had built support among younger officials. She had reformed diplomatic training, introduced cultural adaptation studies, and eventually risen to become the Council's chief expert on interspecies relations. And through it all, she had maintained the minimal allowed contact with one particular human. Official communications only, research notes, diplomatic updates, formal responses to Earth's queries. Nothing personal could be transmitted under Council protocols. Yet somehow, Han had always seemed to understand the meaning hidden between her carefully worded reports. His last message had arrived a month ago. Border restrictions lifting soon. Keep watching the stars. Now, as she prepared for the inauguration of the new interspecies space station, Harmony Point, Nari felt an unfamiliar nervousness. Her skin rippled with anticipation patterns she couldn't fully control. The journey to Harmony Point took 3 days. Built at the exact midpoint between Valkyrie and human territories, the station represented a new era of cooperation. Nari led the first official Valkyrie delegation, 20 specialists selected for their openness to new experiences. When they arrived, Nari was impressed by the station's design. Unlike the purely functional human stations she had visited before, Harmony Point blended both species' architectural styles. Humans had contributed practicality and comfort, while Valkyrie influences showed in the flowing lines and light-responsive surfaces. The human delegation would arrive the following day. Nari spent the night reviewing final preparations, checking that all cultural accommodations were properly implemented. She approved translation adjustments, environmental settings, and food preparation protocols. When she finally rested, Nari found herself experiencing the same altered biochemical state that had troubled her years ago. Her scientific mind observed the elevated heart rate, the heightened sensory awareness, the persistent thought patterns focusing on a single subject. Early in her career, she would have called these symptoms concerning. Now she simply accepted them. Morning came. Nari stood at the arrival terminal, watching through the transparent barrier as the human ship docked. Her official position required her presence, but she knew the real reason she had arrived 30 minutes early. The human vessel has completed docking procedures, announced the station's AI in both languages. Pressurization complete. Passengers will disembark momentarily. Nari's skin displayed perfect diplomatic welcome patterns as the airlock cycled open. First came security personnel, then official representatives. Earth's new ambassador nodded respectfully as he passed. Trade negotiators, scientific advisors, cultural specialists, all filed through. Then, when Nari had almost given up hope, a familiar figure appeared. Han looked older. Gray streaked his once black hair. New lines marked his face. He wore a commander's uniform with additional insignia she didn't recognize, but his eyes were the same, finding hers immediately across the crowded terminal. He approached slowly, stopping at a formal distance. Science Director Nari. He greeted her, using her new title perfectly. Earth sends its highest regards. Commander Han, she replied, her skin maintaining proper diplomatic patterns despite the effort it cost her. The Valkyrie welcome Earth's representatives. They exchanged formal pleasantries as required by protocol. Other officials moved around them, humans and Valkyrie, beginning the complex dance of interspecies diplomacy. Later, when the official welcoming ceremony ended, Nari found Han in the observation lounge, the same type of place where they had said goodbye 3 years earlier. "Your work is impressive," Han said as she joined him. "The Council's shift in policy has been faster than anyone predicted. Evidence can be persuasive, even to those resistant to change," Nari replied. "But you have been equally busy, it seems." Han nodded. "After you left, I requested transfer to diplomatic services. Spent a year learning Valkyrie language and customs. Then another year at the border outpost." "Waiting," Nari said softly. "Working," Han corrected. "Building connections, creating proposals, finding allies who wanted the same change as we did." "You waited," she repeated, her skin now displaying the complex emotional patterns she had developed over the years. Patterns that combined Valkyrie expressiveness with human emotional depths. Han smiled. "I said I would." Her translator struggled to convey the full meaning of her response, the patterns rippling across her skin too complex for its programming. "Your efforts changed your world," Han observed. "As did yours," Nari acknowledged. "And yet protocol still limits our interaction." Han's smile widened. "Perhaps not for long. I've been assigned as co-commander of the Horizon, the joint exploration vessel," Nari asked, surprise patterns flickering across her skin. "Earth's first true interstellar ship, built with Valkyrie guidance," Han confirmed. "Launching next month for a 5-year mission." "They need a Valkyrie co-commander," Nari realized. "Someone with extensive experience working with humans," Han agreed. "The Council received the request yesterday." Nari's skin displayed patterns of possibility and hope. "I will submit my application immediately." 2 weeks later, they stood together on the bridge of the Horizon. Human and Valkyrie crew worked side by side, preparing for their historic journey beyond both species' territories. Co-commander, navigation systems are aligned, reported a young human officer. Environmental harmonization complete, added a Valkyrie specialist, her skin showing satisfaction patterns. Han and Neri exchanged glances. 3 years of separation, of working separately toward the same goal, had finally brought them here. "Ready?" Han asked quietly. Neri's skin displayed a pattern Han had never seen before, one she had created herself, combining Valkyrie artistic tradition with human emotional expression. It meant, simply, always. "Horizon, you are cleared for departure," came the voice from Harmony Point Control. Han gave the order to engage the engines as the ship moved away from the station. Leaving known space behind, neither commander noticed the discrete observation devices tracking their journey. In distant parts of the galaxy, other spacefaring species watched with interest. The Juran Collective, monitoring from their cloaked outposts. The Meridian Consciousness, observing through quantum entanglement. The Ancient Veiled Ones, who had watched younger species rise and fall for millennia. All noted the same unexpected development. Humans, technologically primitive, but remarkably adaptive, forming genuine connections with the isolated, logical Valkyrie. The human capacity for emotional persistence, for maintaining bonds across time and space, had overcome evolved biological differences and cultural barriers that should have been insurmountable. It was, perhaps, the most formidable trait they had observed in any emerging species, this ability to form attachments that defied logic and distance. More powerful than weapons, more persuasive than technology, more transformative than any material advancement. As the horizon disappeared into the darkness between stars, carrying its mixed crew toward unknown discoveries, the Watchers updated their assessments of humanity's potential place in the galactic community. The question was no longer if humans would join the wider universe, but how quickly they would change it when they did.